Welcome back. In this video we are going to do about the active player. So we'll do the switching the active players between 1 and 2. So let's keep building our pig game. In this video we're going to be concerned with the switching from one active player to another. As we already know, whenever the player rules for 1, we'll enter this block. When we enter this block, so when the dice is not 1, so the current dice gets added to the current score and then it will roll a 1, then we lose our score and it is the next player round, right? So in the previous lecture we implemented this functionality of adding the dice to the current score only as a player number 0. Okay, but now we need to make this work for the both the players. As we have seen here in the previous, we have did here only for once change later we have already kept here, right? So it was we have done only for player 1. So now right now we need to do for both the players. So basically we need to know which player is right now playing, and with the right now means whenever I click the button here, so we'll create another variable which will hold exactly, so it will hold 0, and if the current player is 0, and then it will hold 1. So if the active player is number 1, then let's say here we'll write let active player will set initially to 0. Okay, because the player number 1 is 0 and player number 2 is 1, right? So as you can see here, this score we are talking about. In fact, let me explain why is the reason that we store the score for both the players in an array. So let me do that. We'll start with 0 points for the both sides, right? So let me just say here constant scores. Here we'll set this to an array 0. So here these scores are the final scores of the big scores here. Okay, initially. So here they are storing two scores in an array, and remember that array is a 0 based, so the score of this player number 1 0 here is this first 0 here, and similarly it is same for the player 2 as well. So in array it is one element, right? So this one goes to this player 2 here, this 0. Okay, these variables are getting stored here, right? So active player variable right here, so let's set to 0 and 1, and we'll see that in the next video where we'll hold the scores for both the players. And for now, which is the active player is important, so here display the current score here for the current player, not just for the player number 0. So instead of manipulating the element of player 0, we'll set the current score of the player 0. Let's actually select that by the element dynamically. So here we'll be writing our code. So here document dot query selector. So we have declared here dynamically, so we'll not be requiring this. So let me just turn this off. Okay, what we did here was actually let's use instead of get element by id, yes, here we use the get element by id, and then we needed the class name, right? So the class name is going to be the current 0. So as you can see in our document, see here current 0. So this class we are just calling out, or player 0 or current player, or for player 1. And maybe now you start to see once more why we use this active player as 0 and 1, because we can use that variable to basically build these collapse names. Okay, see here in our HTML document, as you can see. So when it is player 0, we'll then end up with the current 0, and if it is 1, then we'll end up with the current 1, and that's going to be an active player. So what I just said is we have done here current dash dash and then the number of active players. Okay, so now this we'll get as an text content, and we'll set this to the current score. Okay, so again, 1 always will be set to the text content on the number player 0. Okay, as you can see here, and but here we instead select the score element dynamically based on which is a active player right now. Okay, this is very an handy trick of building the ID name like dynamically. Okay, so now here when we switch the player, of course we need to change the value from 0 to 1 or from 1 to 0. Essentially switching the next player, that means the change the value. So here we'll say in our else switching the player, here we are writing our code right now. So here we'll say active player equals to active player, which is equals to 0 1. So here the active player, let's use now this we have did using the ternary operator. So we can say that if the active player is 0, then we want the new active player to be 1, and else it should be 0. All right. So essentially we are reassigning this active player here, and we are checking whether it is right now in player 0 or player 0 or player 1. So if it is, then the result of this whole operator, so which again is all of this, then the result is going to be the 1. So then the active will be equal to 1, but if it is false, then the active player will become 0 like we have declared here. So essentially this allows us to switch from 0 to 1. So let me just show you here the demo of it. Now we'll see the output here. So let's roll the dice. So as you can see, until we hit 1, see, it is also changing the value, but it is just changing from switching player 1 and 2. So for now, just forget about this 65 and 70. Don't worry about that. We'll set this just in a bit. Okay, so right now we declare the switching the player, so it got switched from 1 to 2. Right now this code works. We need to do the changes like set the score to 0 here when the player turn changes, and also here as well we need to change when this player turn is 0. So this we have to set here current to 0. Logic of active player is already working, but still we need to reset the current score. So like let me just show you in the demo. When we are writing, see, it got player 2, right? When we hold this value, see, it is changing, right? So here the current value is getting lost, right, when we hit the roll 1. Okay, so this is how we want to do in the same in our project. So let me just do that here. Current score we'll set to 0. Here we'll just change the text current instead of to the current score. We'll just set it here to 0 as well. So then we'll just see our output. It is not working right previously. See, when we roll, it is just going and it is just changing, but we want our current score to be 0. So for that, let me just grab this document dot, and here we'll paste it below the switch to next player. In this, we don't want here the current score. So in this case, else case, we want text document to be here 0. So let me just save it. So here we are rolling. See, here we are getting score. When we roll 1, it is hitting 0, and then see changing. Now it works exactly fine. Okay. So let me just explain why we have written this line again here in this else block. So we are basically selecting the current player, which is at this point is still 0, and we set this text content to 0, and then we switch from 0 to 1. Okay, and we can also set the current score to 0 here, but that doesn't really matter here because the current score is not bonded to any other player here. Okay, so here I'll write one more, so it goes right way, and so we switch to this player back again immediately. But now you see the logic here, it is working. Now the only thing let's do was the visual change. So let me just show you here in the HTML. Player with active here is default. Player with the active here, see it is here the default by the player number 1. So whenever we are switching the player, so the active needs to be that player. So here it is active by default, right, by using our class and id. So here we have to remove this player active 1, and when the player turn is switched to player 2, it needs to go ahead and pop up here. So it needs to be activated here, remove here and add here. So let's do that. Before writing that, let's just create here constant player 1 element equals to document dot query selector. So we are selecting by class, so again we need to use the dot operator, dot player 0 0. So we'll copy this and we'll paste it here. So instead of player 1, we'll set this to 0. Here we'll set it 1. Okay, here we'll just change it to 1. So let me just check these classes. Player 0, player 1. So yeah, they are correct. And we'll go ahead and here we'll write the code. So as we have learned in the previous videos, we have added and we have removed and we have done which contains what contains in the HTML code, right? But in this case we'll write about the toggle. So basically what this toggle does in this HTML is, so whenever it moves automatically, it just removes here and then it adds. So when it comes back, it will automatically add. So instead of writing add and remove, we can simply write this toggle as well. The class player. Okay. Similarly, we also need to write for the second player as well, right? So player 1. So here going to be the toggle 1. Yeah, here this is not equals to, so this here needs to be here hyphen, so that is why we are not getting our output. So here what we need to toggle is here the player active, right, not player 1 and 0, active. Let me just check here in the HTML. So active, yeah. And also here we don't be requiring the dot operator when we are adding and removing. So when we are just calling only, we require a dot. So let me just save the file. So see, when it is 1, it is changing, as you have seen, observed here, it is shifting from player 1 to 2. So let me just show you. See, this works perfectly fine. With that, we are done with this session. In the next section, we are going to declare how this hold function button works. So, and then how this score is going to the hold the value and all this in the next topic of this video. That's it for this video.